So let's continue our discussion of what is coming out of the ANC's 55th National Elective Conference, but also what is happening on the sidelines. And if you caught our discussion with Thulisizwe Semelani just before the break, we were discussing the State Attorney's legal letter that has just come out, and it's essentially challenging former President Jacob Zuma's attempt to launch a private prosecution against Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's bring in our analysts in studio here. With me is Mapeseka Muroa. Thank you very much for joining us, and Ibrahim Harvey. So you both have read through this letter. You heard what Thulis had to say. Basically, the state president's lawyers are saying, look, this is nonsense. There's nothing in this. You don't have a certificate regarding Cyril Ramaphosa. But I was speaking to Thulis just before we lost our comms about this phrase that has come up in the president's letter saying that Jacob Zuma essentially doesn't have any title to prosecute. And that is a phrase we know so well from when he was trying to challenge Billy Downer.
Yes. No, it's a shot in the dark. I suspected it already yesterday, and I've had sight now of the letter from the state attorney. It just, no, it's incredible miscalculation. You see, Zuma's confusing, I think he's got a gripe against the president and had hoped that this could affect and compromise the president seeking a re-election at this conference. It appears that that was his political calculation. I think it's going to badly misfire. But there's another thing that this letter states, that Ramaphosa is not even mentioned in the Billy Downer proceedings. He's not even cited. So it's completely misplaced, this private prosecution, besides the fact that any private prosecution must issue from what? The prosecutor director must have stated, for whatever reasons, not willing to prosecute a particular matter. For there to exist justification, then to pursue a private. So that doesn't apply too. And no, you can see the timing. And then also so rudely disrupting, while the president was delivering his political.
And
he timed it. It's quite deliberate, yes. Sally. Zuma appeared at that moment to distract attention from the president delivering his speech. It was very rude. It was those who think that he should be subjected to disciplinary action, that is Zuma, are entirely correct, I think.
And it's interesting, in that letter it says here, it's common knowledge that the president will stand for re-election as presidential candidate. The summons was served, they're calling it the purported summons, was served on the day before the national conference. It appears that the purported summons was served to halt his candidature. This is an abusive process. Now, we know abusive process is one of the issues that you can face a disciplinary hearing from within the ANC. It's there in their constitution. And I think potentially this is what Derek Hanekom was alluding to when he was interviewed just a little earlier on ENCA. Let's take a listen to that.
It was more than an embarrassment. It was intensely annoying and, and worrying at the same time, because we were worried that this is the beginning of a serious attempt to disrupt this conference. Naturally, because when people there just simply won't allow the president to speak, you think, well, how long is this going to go on for? How can we proceed with the conference if people just won't allow him to speak? Thankfully, the elected leadership of the province intervened, of KwaZulu-Natal, and they brought it under control, and one has to give them good credit for that. And, I've just come out of the hall just after the deputy president has presented the organizational report. Chup still. Very, very disciplined conference delegates. Nothing of this kind whatsoever, but it was worrying. It was worrying, but it was brought under control. You can only put two and two together.
Was it deliberate, you think?
I can only say what I think. I can't say for sure that it was deliberate, but it certainly appears to have been very deliberate timing. How do you walk into the whole conference hall just as the president of the country, of the ANC, is about to commence with the delivery of his report? And it was clear that the delegates were expecting it, or that group. It's a small group, by the way. Small but rowdy group. But it was deliberate, and for me that is more than just embarrassing, more than just annoying, but it's something that I believe action should be taken against what I would consider to be an act of gross ill discipline, misconduct. So what does one do when members of the ANC commit acts of misconduct? There are disciplinary processes. That's normal. Just in the same way as all citizens are equal in the eyes of the law, all ANC members should be equal in the eyes of the ANC's constitution.
All right, Derek Hanekom is speaking a little earlier. Mapeseka, Muroa, you've had a look at the State Attorney's letter. What did you make of it?
A lot of legalese is what I made of it. Look, I think at the core of this is that, especially with the timing, is the step-aside rule. So the former President Jacob Zuma charging the sitting president at this time was that he does not have enough time to respond. So you've been charged, therefore you should step aside. That's at the core of it. So I think this is particularly sad for the African National Congress. I mean, this level of interference with the conference, number one. And number two, I mean, we enjoy this kind of legal and political banter between politicians. It's exciting. We love for that. We love to see that. But it's sad that the African National Congress has reached this point that during a conference, a member that is, vying for the highest office in that particular organization is now dealing with something like this. We know, as Meba Tabile Dlamini has previously said, that, they all have smaller skeletons in their closet. This is true. If you go looking, you will find something. So as members of the African National Congress, they now have to ask themselves, is this the kind of banter that they want to be dealing with at a national conference? Do they want to be consistently talking, discussing, fighting over leadership when they should be discussing policy? It's sad for the country as well, looking at this organization.
How much does it say about where Jacob Zuma is at? Is he as powerful a politician as he once was?
I mean, former President Jacob Zuma was a powerful man. When you look from 1991, particularly running uncontested as Deputy Secretary General and so forth, and just, in public, the way he's been loved. But he's now beyond the organization. So in terms of the organization, the people that are within it are the people that are currently powerful. I mean, you look at the people who are heckling the president, and you'll see that it was particularly majority KZN, right? And they looked isolated. It was particularly them that were heckling the president. But the majority of the people, not so much. So we are used to President Zuma, utilizing these very, tactical, smart, legal moves. And they excite us. But now this affects the public. It affects South Africa, because we're going to go to the polls in 2024. But then does the African National Congress still care about resolving on issues that affect
with so many pressing issues? There's this playing out on the side. Yeah, you make a very good point. Now, I'm not sure if we've got the clip. Our producer will let us know. But Oscar Mabuyane, Premier of the Eastern Cape, spoke to the channel earlier, and he said that it was the lowest point that Jacob Zuma has instituted a private prosecution against Ramaphosa. He says the ANC is degenerating, and now is a time for strong leadership. Very much what you're saying. I'm not sure we have that clip. Do we have that clip, Stu? Let's take it.
That's a very, very unprecedented situation that we saw, actually the lowest point in the history of the ANC, seeing that sort of desperation. I know it from myself, the attempts that would have been made just to muzzle me out, cut me out of the race, even at a provincial level. But same tendencies. This is just a tendency, unfortunately, that continues. And again, it should not be happening at that level. The president knows himself that he has been in the apex leadership of the ANC for almost 20 years, as a deputy president for almost 10 years, as well as a president for almost 10 years. So it's not done. We've never seen something like that, and I think it's a serious level of degeneration, as we have said it before, and we expect them. They know ANC better than all of us. They know ANC, they've been there, they grew up in the ANC. There's nothing more they know than the ANC. So they can really help the ANC actually to move ahead. Clearly, with this sort of the posturing, ANC actually is getting deeper into this very deep dungeon. It's going to be difficult to extricate it. It needs a leadership.
So, Ibrahim, my question for you is, this situation that's playing out with Jacob Zuma and so many of the other sort of factional issues, which do cause problems within the party, against the backdrop of this country and the problems that we're facing, the economic challenges, the crisis of the youth not being able to get work, load shedding. Do you think that the ANC can pull itself towards itself and get into the game of really running this country?
Well, you know, I would hope that it could have used this conference as a turning point in that very direction, you know, positive direction. But I'm afraid to say, you know, at least we got to see what comes out of who's being elected, and you know. But thus far, the impression I've got is that the ANC is really caught up in a deeper crisis than we even might have thought. I mean, things haven't gone too well, Sally. Yesterday's things and issues around registration, accreditation. I hope finally it appears that the accreditation is done. But Zuma is really a shot in the dark, and all those who call for disciplinary action against him, you know, are completely correct. I would hope, and one has to continue to hope, because the fact is that the ANC, although in rapid, steep decline, you know, politically and other polls, is still the ruling party. And we have to just see and hope that this conference, you know, that they managed to keep it together. You can see what happened, the heckling that the president faced last night, you know, clearly orchestrated from the KZN. A lot of bitterness there in KZN around. I think Zuma blames the president for his imprisonment and what has happened to him at the Constitutional Court. And it's very misdirected. I think his stature will decline and sense of power of himself, except for KZN, where he's still a big force to be reckoned with.
Sure.
I think nationally you're going to see, and in the ANC, a further reduction in his stature and power after this very badly miscalculated, misfiring thing about the private prosecution is launched against the president.
And clearly, President Ramaphosa is not going to take it lying down, sending out that legal letter this afternoon. Ibrahim, Harvey, Mapeseka, Muroa, thank you very much for your views.